I first saw Lew Welch back in the late 60s, maybe 68 or 69. There was a gathering of like-minded people who wanted to leave America with a K, that's how we spelled it then, behind and pursue other directions. The gathering was in the mountains above Santa Barbara at a place called Painted Cave, I think. And Gary and Lew were to read and to speak. Gary went first, and then Lew followed. He unwound his long, lanky frame and stood up and pointed to half the crowd that was sitting in a semicircle, and he said, "Isn't it wonderful to be here in the mountains? But I should point out to you, those of you who are sitting there, you're sitting in a patch of poison oak." That was the first of many things I learned from Lew Welch. I won't tell you whether I was one of those people sitting in the patch. But I came to meet him a few years later on the San Juan Ridge when he began to visit Gary in the early 70s. And I remember one morning, the background to this is that he had signed a contract with Grove Press to print a collection of his poems, and he had received an advance. And that morning, we were out in the woods, Gary and Lew and I, and we were delimbing and debarking some ponderosa pine logs, trees that had fallen. And Lew was as happy as a blue jay on a Sierra morning. He spent a good part of it running up and down the log, singing, "Oh, the writer's life is the life for me. Yes, the writer's life is the life for me." Unfortunately, that particular book never came to fruition. The last time I saw Lew was in May of 1971. He came to our house, my home that I shared with my wife at the time, the artist Jackie Malone, for dinner. He was spiffed up. He had shined his boots. He had a clean shirt on. He was freshly shaven. His hair was slicked back. On his waist he had a 50-foot Stanley tape measure. Hanging from his neck was an engorged tick. After we removed the tick from his neck, we sat down and we had a lovely dinner and a long evening of talk and laughter and storytelling without wine, because at that time Lew was trying mightily to give up alcohol, and he was taking antabuse, which meant that if he were to take some alcohol, he would become violently ill. So I wrote this poem back then for Lew called Buzzard Man, and it speaks of that evening and what happened subsequently. Actually, 2 days after that dinner, word came from Gary that Lew had disappeared, had left a note, had gone off with his gun, and we were going to search for him, which we did. And this is the poem that speaks of those two events. It's called Buzzard Man. All day long we looked for you in open meadows, on ridges and knolls, among pines and rocks, following deer trails through poison oak and manzanita. Lew, Lew, where have you gone? Give us a sign, a simple sign. Wandering poet, where are you? You came with your shiny silver tape rule on your belt and a blood-gorged tick hanging from your neck. Your tales of death and crabbing and falling redwoods held us frozen. 2 days just to make a notch, you said. You wove such a wondrous web of words, we needed you among us. Storytellers are always welcome here, but your quiet terror held me on the edge of sleep. All day long the truck, on horseback, on foot, on our hands and knees, close to the earth. I went southwest, you know it said. The Hopis live in the southwest. It is there the sun burns brightest. It is where the Yuga flows. It is where your cabin would have been. All day long we looked for you, hoping to find you alive, but night is upon us, and the rain, the rare May rain, has begun. You told us you ride a buzzard. You asked me to help you find one. I kept searching the sky for your great wheeling bird. There were only the clouds. I wrote that on May 25th. We never did find Lew or his remains, and as far as I know, nobody ever has. But as you've heard tonight, he left behind a remarkable legacy, the friendships that have been spoken of, and also his poems. And what I admired most, I think, about Lew's poetry was its diamond sharpness and accuracy, his incisiveness, his humor, and most of all, for me, his brevity. I was going to read 4 short poems of his tonight, but since David chose to read First You Must Love Your Body and Games, I'll read 3 short poems. The first is the longest. It is called A Very Important Letter. I just can't figure it out, but I think the problem is in my mind now, and only there. I've looked everywhere else, and it certainly isn't to be found anywhere. I'm going to sit beneath that tree and use my mind to find my mind, even if it seems I crushed my mind. I know of no other way. Goodbye. And it's signed Gautama, as in Gautama Buddha. And this is the commentary by the Red Monk. It only took 9 days and nights. You can't imagine how relieved he was, for he was very troubled. Not as you or I, because all the world was his by birth, and he already knew himself by the way he was. He had learned at great cost that he himself was perfect. And the world was something no one in his right mind would want to own. That the world itself was perfect, and why was he so troubled? Remember also that those 9 days were the end of many years of work. If you shatter a jar which never had anything in it, what could possibly spill out? This is called Difficulty Along the Way, which happens to be the 3rd hexagram of the I Ching. Seeking total, perfect enlightenment is looking for a flashlight, when all you need the flashlight for is to find the flashlight. And finally, small sentence to drive yourself sane. The next time you are doing something absolutely ordinary, or even better, the next time you are doing something absolutely necessary, such as pissing, or making love, or doing the dishes, or washing the baby, or yourself, or the room, say to yourself, so it's all come to this.